a showdown in Miami between two of the nation's best. Michigan, Florida State. The Capital One Orange Bowl coverage begins Friday, December 30th at 8 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Give me your boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, dope?
I'm David Jacoby. We're Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do we do, Jalen?
We give the people what they want.
Let's do it right now. I'm going to tell you something. I put the Patriots in the Super Bowl about a month ago. But things have changed in the AFC. Now we have Gronkowski out for the season. There is an opening. It's not just the Patriots and the rest of the field. There are a lot of contending teams for the AFC champion. We start with the Raiders. Big win over the Bills. What impressed you more, the offense or the defense of the Raiders?
The defense, the continued emergence of Khalil Mack. 3 straight strip fumbles that he recovered in the fourth quarter, sealing victories for their team.
Yep.
A defense that started the season really slow, that was being carried by the offense. But however, you can't overlook the prowess on that side of the football, led by Derek Carr in particular, getting his team back into the game, overcoming the big-time deficit to win a huge game.
Crabtree had a touchdown. Cooper had a touchdown. Latavius Murray had 2 touchdowns. It was sort of a complete performance by the Raiders, who are emerging as one of, if not, the best team in the AFC. And then we look at this game. This game. The Kansas City Chiefs in Atlanta against the Falcons, backs against the wall. What happened, Jalen?
For the Kansas City Chiefs, they play opportunistic football. You can look at their offensive statistics. They don't wow you. Amongst the worst in the game. But what gets overlooked is Andy Reid is a consistent, legitimate, veteran quality coach. And he gets the most out of his football team. Defense, special teams, a fake punt. And Eric Berry was terrific. A pick 6, a pickoff on a 2-point conversion that he returned the other way. In Atlanta, where the last time that he recalled being there, it was because he was there for chemotherapy. And I remember around the Super Bowl last year, I was at a media day, and I got a chance to spend a lot of time talking to him during that period of time. And I saw the progression of him still trying to hope that he'd be in a position to be a productive player, to actually responding and now playing like a Pro Bowl caliber player. And watching the Chiefs secondary, it just reminded me of the 92 Madden days when they had James Hasty, Deron Cherry, and Dale Carter. So many people that can make plays at the snap of a finger. This is why the Kansas City Chiefs consistently continue to win and play well.
When Eric Berry had the pick 6, gave the football to his mom, and the announcers were discussing that he had Hodgkin's lymphoma. He's around his hometown. The last time that he was there in Atlanta, as you said, he had chemotherapy treatments. There was a little part of me that almost cried, Jalen. I'm not going to lie. There's a little part of me that's almost cried. Did you almost cry?
You suffered through the years and shed so many tears. I did not almost cry.
You're not a crier. I'm a crier.
It was one of those moments, however, that continues to allow me to appreciate the stories that go on beyond the score of the game. I also want to give a hat tip to the NFL. And I know on this show, in particular when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, we were scratching our heads at some of the decisions on Twitter that were made by the NFL as related to one of their players and his past behavior.
Of course.
But how about this for the league? They 100% got it right when they decided to move back where teams kick the extra point and also allowing a 2-point conversion to now be a live football that could go the other way and be score and be points for the other team. Now that play means something in football, and don't allow the people that really don't want the extra point to be moved back to act like they love the 2-point conversion. Well, they go together. They're the exact same thing. They're a special teams play that now after you score your 6 for your touchdown, You have to earn. It's not a gimme to get the extra point. I appreciate that the league did that.
I do too, and I just love if you put yourself as a Falcons fan, you get the little go-ahead touchdown. You are ahead by a point. Obviously, if you go at the difference between 1 and 2 points is negligible in terms of a lead late in the game in the NFL. So you kind of are forced to go for 2 points. So you are forced to put the ball in the air if that's what you decide to do. And then you have the potential of Matt Ryan throwing a pick that could be returned for a safety. And then you have to kick the ball back to the Chiefs. It was such a fun sequence of events that couldn't have happened with a better story with Eric Berry being the person bringing it back. I love that game so much. And I just feel so bad for all my friends that are Falcons fans. It just seems like this could be another one of those things for Falcons fans where they get excited midway through the year just to have their hopes dashed at the end of the year. Continuing with the AFC, a game I know you paid attention to, the Steelers look good again. The Steelers really do look good again, especially on offense with Roethlisberger, Bell, Brown, and now Green. What did you see from them that you like?
As a fan of the game, while the season has progressed, you get a chance to appreciate triplets for a couple of different teams. What's happening in Dallas with Dak, Ezekiel, and Dez Bryant.
Good point.
What's happening with the Raiders and Carr and Latavius, and not only Cooper, but Crabtree. But the best set reside in Pittsburgh with Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, who's a two-way back, can run routes like a receiver, but clearly get big-time yards on the ground, and Antonio Brown, who caught a touchdown pass in this game. When they're functioning on all cylinders, there's no reason why anybody should overlook the fact that they can be a team that beyond the New England Patriots, I feel like beyond the KC Chiefs, even beyond the Raiders, that's the team that I'm really watching. And as Green emerged as tight end, getting yards in the middle of the field, you're going to give Big Ben a safety net in the middle of the field when he can shed tackles and find somebody right in his vision? Now all of a sudden, if their offensive line continues to hold up and their defense can play stout because they play good football, to me, that's the team, if I'm the Patriots, I'm the most worried about. But however, you can't overlook the other two teams that I mentioned clearly.
If I'm the Patriots, I'm probably most worried about Gronkowski's back. It's just so sad. But then, as you mentioned, with Brown on the outside with his deep threat, then you've got Bell running up the middle and catching out of the backfield. And now to have that whole middle of the field you have to be worried about when you're going against the Steelers with the emergence of Green. It just seems like a nightmare for a defensive coordinator. One more team I wanted to get to in the AFC that's not really in one of the top tier, but is looking pretty good lately, especially on defense, is the Baltimore Ravens are back in the conversation after a big win against a surprisingly good Dolphins team. Do you think that they could potentially be in the AFC Championship?
I don't think they can make it to the AFC Championship.
Oh, Baltimore just got sad.
But they are a team that I've said since the beginning. Remember, we featured them as a team that people considered not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. And that was because the best person that they had to put points on the board was their kicker. And when that takes place, then people aren't going to pick you to go really far. Now, all of a sudden, their offense has caught up with their defense. They put up big-time numbers on Sunday. Their defense has continued to be stout all year. Joe Flacco's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Mike Wallace has shown he could go deep. Steve Smith Sr. continues to be productive. The Baltimore Ravens, just like the Kansas City Chiefs, when the smoke clears, these are two well-coached football teams. John Harbaugh always gets the most, seemingly out of the least, as it relates to the competition. And I do appreciate the season that they have, but I just don't see them as the kind of team that can make it to the AFC Championship game. But the AFC continues, just like the NFC for that matter, to be wide open.
Jalen, I have a simple question. Did the Lions win on Sunday? 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 I'm such a Lions fan now. I'm all the way on the bandwagon. I'm pushing the bandwagon. I'm on top of someone's shoulders on top of the bandwagon. I love the Lions. Admit it. You were a little surprised. You were a little surprised when they went into New Orleans in the Superdome and shut down that offense. You were surprised. Don't lie.
a couple of the more surprising outcomes yesterday happened with how the Pittsburgh Steelers took care of the Giants, with how the Lions clearly won on the road, and how Tampa Bay won. So I wasn't surprised that Detroit got the victory. I appreciated the fact their defense was stout and limiting Drew Brees, which basically almost never happens, especially in the Superdome. That's what I was enthusiastic about. And also about the fact that it wasn't a last-second win. It wasn't down to the wire. It wasn't a cardiac situation. I'm a Lions fan. We won one playoff game in 50 years. I'm used to the heartbreak. I remember Eddie Murphy in 82, 83, who's in the Michigan Hall of Fame, missed a 42, 43-yard field goal that could have sent us to the Super Bowl.
Oh,
I know all of these results.
And I'm a bandwagon die easy Lions fan, and I'm still watching the game just like you in the fourth quarter being like, okay, they score once, and then they get an onside kick, and then they get the extra point. Oh, no, this could get bad quickly. But it just never happened. The Lions' defense looked so stout, especially the secondary, playing one of the best passing attacks in the league in the last decade, if not an entire stretch of the NFL. What I loved the most was this, though, Jalen Rose. Whoever runs social media for the Lions, after the game was over, just decided to post a little something. They put out a picture on Twitter of every single analyst at ESPN, every single one that predicted the Saints would win this game. Did that feel a little good? Did it feel a little good when you read that tweet?
No, because not only do I follow that account, but it wasn't every single analyst, because I predicted that we would win. But I'm just not on that show.
They didn't ask you?
They didn't ask my opinion. But here's the more important thing that's happening in Detroit, is that Matthew Stafford is emerging as a legitimate top-flight quarterback.
Oh, I thought you were going to say MVP candidate.
No, I'm not going there yet. I'm not going to go there yet. And I know that when you look at the statistics, you can compare him to another couple of players that may be in a conversation.
Doesn't pass the
like
smell
Derek
test.
Carr or even Tom Brady or Dak Prescott. But when you just watch the eye test, those guys, to me, have an edge. And you want to throw Ezekiel Elliott into that conversation also. But for the way he's played, and it's good to see Golden Tate, who struggled at the beginning of the year, not only dropping footballs, but with his confidence, now all of a sudden playing like a Pro Bowl receiver, losing our tight end during the year, though Ebron continues to play well. Now Anquan Bolton is running a lot of those routes, and he's been a threat in the red zone. So to see that balance really is something to be enthusiastic about. But again, we have another 4 weeks of tough opponents, really good quarterbacks, except the Bears, who have already beaten us this year. So I'm not going to get too enthusiastic about a team that I predicted would win 11 games. We're just taking it 1 week at a time.
Okay. When you first said that they would go 11-5, do you remember how I reacted? And I'm sure every single person that listens or watches the show
opposite of my
the exact same way. Yeah, like we were all just laughing at you, just spit takes, calling you a homer, completely discrediting you as any sort of football thinker. All of us were just like, oh, he's a homer. You know what? When that happens, when someone says something like that, and you just look at them and you're like, I can't even believe anything this guy says anymore. Do you know what I'm doing right now? I'm looking in the mirror and saying, I was wrong, Jalen. I was very, very wrong. Not just to doubt the Lions, but to doubt you.
It was one of those things, they aren't going to laugh at me. But I just let it. I just let it do what it do.
But you also, as a true Lions fan, you also know that they could also go 0-4 for the rest of the way and miss the playoffs. Like that's on the board. That's on the board.
Correct.
And let's move on in the NFC. In a game that I had circled, the Sunday night game, the primetime game, a classic matchup between two teams that we have seen have great games in the past, a budding quarterback rivalry, two biggest stars in the league up against each other. Of course, I'm talking about the Seahawks and the Panthers, and it was a letdown. We're going to talk about Tygate later. We'll get to the Tygate later, but what did you like from the Seahawks?
The emergence of their running game, seemingly when their offensive line is going to block and create balance, regardless to who's in the backfield. I saw Michael get yards before he got released. I saw Procise get yards before he got injured. And now
it's Thomas Out of the backfield.
Had over 100 yards rushing, 2 TDs. That level of balance, when people talk about the elite quarterbacks in the game, they always look crazy when I say, don't forget Russell Wilson. Because as a run-throw threat, the shortest quarterback in the league, this side of Drew Brees, I tell you what, this guy makes plays with his feet, with his arms, and before you know it, Lockett's making a play. Baldwin, he's throwing them open. Jimmy Graham has now found a resurgence. And the Legion of Boom is just that. Now, the one thing that gives me some trepidation is I hated seeing Earl Thomas get injured.
Oh, yeah.
Now, here's a player that hadn't missed a game his entire career, missed the previous game with a hamstring injury, then unfortunately a collision with his own teammate Cam Chancellor led to him eventually breaking his leg during the game. That's a big loss. So much so, the next play, Cam Newton drops back and throws a touchdown bomb to Ted Ginn Jr. in the spot that he would normally be standing. That just shows his elite value to that football team.
He did tweet from the locker room, an emotional response. He said he was thinking about retirement. What does that tell you about his mind state just being an athlete?
It's one of those things that if you didn't have social media, you'll be in the training room, you'll be getting treatment, they'll be talking to you about the steps of what's next with your injury, you'll be showering, putting on your clothes, trying to get ready for your rehab reality. So you wouldn't have that emotional opportunity to press send and then possibly regret it. But as a fan of his, I don't see a player breaking his leg of his magnitude and now retiring. I just think that was an emotional response, and I felt a lot better when I saw him joke later to Cam Chancellor on Twitter as well to say, you owe me a steak, basically for running into me, and he said, ha, ha, ha. So because of that, he clearly won't be returning this year. They will miss him, but once they got Michael Bennett back, who's clearly one of the top defenders in the league, they still, to me, are a team that, along with the Dallas Cowboys, have what it takes to win the NFC.
Jalen, heading into the season in Chicago, there was so much discussion about the great new chemistry on the team, this new chapter that they had opened up by bringing in Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo, and the chemistry was great, and the brotherhood and the family and all of that. Well, it only took a couple months. We now have our first. Rajon Rondo was suspended for conduct detrimental to the team report. He got into an argument with assistant Jim Boylan during their loss to the Mavericks. Take us behind the curtain, Jalen Rose. What really happened?
A clear emotional joyride for a player in Rajon Rondo who just the night before had a triple-double against the best team in the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the defending world champions, on Chicago's home floor. After that game, was gracious enough to join our countdown crew, myself, McGrady, Phillips, and beat him. He was excited about being in Chicago and hoped that he could continue to build on what I deemed his best game of the year. What I learned going into that day, which doesn't excuse Rajon Rondo's behavior with the assistant coach because we don't know what either one of them said, is that I knew going to Dallas the next night would be an emotional joyride. For those that's been paying attention to the league the last couple of years, he signed with them, got into it with Rick Carlisle amongst other people in the organization, did such things as parked in Rick Carlisle's spot to irk him.
So foul.
To the point where they just released him right before the playoffs. They were just like, you know what?
In the middle of a playoff series, a couple games into a playoff series, they were just like, you know what? We're better off without you. Thank you so much, Rajon. But you can still get your money, but you just have to leave now.
So how do you negotiate and navigate that emotional joyride between the best game of the season against the best team of the East versus the worst team in the entire league that just so happened to release you?
24 hours later.
Once we got to Chicago, and again, while all players should be treated the same, and I've heard a lot of people get this wrong, different people will be disciplined different.
Of course.
That's the distinction. So with that being said, has Dwayne Wade earned the right to take a night off when his team plays 4 games in 5 nights at this point of his career? Absolutely.
Sure.
If my schedule aligns with one of my good friends who just happens to be an NBA 4-time MVP, when they come to town and the Cavs are staying over in Chicago Friday night, if that can be the game, that, hey, you know what?
Hold up, Jalen. Are you suggesting that this was a preemptive thing that Dwayne Wade intentionally took off the game on Saturday against the Mavs, knowing that the Cavs and his friend LeBron would be in town on Friday?
What? Absolutely, but also knowing that his team played 4 games in 5 nights. So this is not just isolated to the Cavs coming to town.
Sure.
It goes to my point of saying, if I'm going to take a night off, I might as well do it when LeBron James and them come to town.
Sure.
When me and my guy could break bread. He wore the Cubs uniform to the game.
Yep.
All of this goodness. We beat them. So, of course, hey, I might as well stay in town. You guys go to Dallas and handle that. And the first thing I said is, when you disrespect the game, as a whole, it finds a way to bite you.
Explain.
I knew that they would lose to the Mavs.
How?
Because of that reason. Because here's what happens in sports. And on all different levels, it's almost like the term, when the parents away, the kids will play. In playing with Reggie Miller, Hall of Famer, the leader of our team, say we were going against the Knicks, our rival at the time.
Yep.
And say that he did a lot of fraternizing with Allen Houston. Laughing, joking, putting the jersey up over the mouth like they were friends beyond the score of the game. Now, when people tell you, and we talked about this on Countdown, if people tell you they play with the same tenacity and emotion against their friends as they do their foes, they're flat out lying to your face. Nobody plays against their brother the way they do against their enemy. How about this? Both of those guys feel some type of way these days about Pat Riley. Imagine if Pat Riley was wearing one of those jerseys. He would have got a hard foul that night, just to prove my point. So with that being said, Dwayne Wade is now the leader of the Chicago Bulls and showing Jimmy Butler how to do as such. And so that Jimmy Butler doesn't have the only voice in the locker room, another veteran is Rajon Rondo to help guide a lot of the young players they have on the team.
Yep.
So when you decide that tomorrow night's game, as an organization, because remember, this isn't Dwayne Wade telling the owner, the GM, the coach, I'm not playing tomorrow night.
He didn't call out sick.
No, that's them saying when we play 4 games in 5 nights, we're going to allow you, Dwayne, to take one of those nights off. And you know what Dwayne did? Exactly what Jalen would have did. I'm going to take the best night off.
I'm going to look at the schedule.
When LeBron comes
I'm looking at
to
everybody
town.
else, and when my buddy LeBron comes to town, I'm going to make plans a week in advance.
No doubt. Big shout, Dwayne Wade has earned that right. But now the rest of the team after that game, guess what they have to do?
Play.
They have to get ready for the game tomorrow.
Get on the plane.
So they actually
play.
have to get on the plane and go play in Dallas. And one thing the Mavs are like, oh, so Wade ain't coming? Oh, okay. Wade not going to be here, so y'all disrespecting us. We get paid to play basketball. Harrison Barnes, Bogut, Wes Matthews with the bow and arrow. They like, okay, cool. We're going to make sure we handle that. And not only did they beat the Bulls, as I knew that they would based on what I'm saying, you lose your major voice in the locker room. So now what happens is when there's turbulence between Rondo and the assistant coach, your captain's not there to squash it.
He's not there to pull Rondo aside or to talk to him. He's not there to be that intermediary veteran voice that's kind of half coach, half player, because that's not really Jimmy Butler either, or Mirotic.
And also, let me tell you something that happened a few years ago also that took place in Dallas.
Take us behind the curtain, Mr. Rose.
LeBron James had an episode when he was walking to the bench and he bumped into Eric Spoelstra. And there are a lot of people in the media who was like, oh, that's it. Pat Riley's going to come down like he did before off his perch, and he's going to coach the team. And you know what Pat Riley said? Y'all better figure it out in the Sandlot because he's going to be here. And you know what has happened since then? Eric Spoelstra, where is he coaching?
Still in Miami.
Where is Dwayne Wade playing?
Chicago.
Where's LeBron playing?
Cleveland.
Okay, that's stability and leadership. That's why he's an all-time puppet master. So when you open the door, it's not just about Wade taking a night off per se. It's one of those things where you hope that player still travels with the team, still suited and booted, sitting on the bench, rooting for the other guys, because now you can stop some of those eruptions before they happen. So by no means am I going to excuse Rajon Rondo behavior, or am I going to blame Dwayne Wade for taking a night off? But it was the worst melting pot that eventually led to his suspension which now is going to lead to him to miss the next game.
Yeah, I don't think there's any direct causality between any of those events, but they are all factors in the whole mixture that is sort of the chemistry of an NBA team. Now, you mentioned that night after the game, Dwayne Wade and LeBron do their press or whatever, and I'm sure they either go to one of their homes and go to dinner or go to some fancy VIP table. Do you think they shared a couple laughs at the expense of Pat Riley and the Heat? Do you think that might have come up?
Well, here's the thing. This how that works. No, because here's why. Dwayne Wade and Pat Riley, they established something so major in Miami that they will figure out to get on the same page and see eye to eye when Dwayne Wade hopes to get a statue in front of the building and will get his number in the rafters. But the thing that's going to happen that's unfortunate as it relates to LeBron James, he won a couple of MVPs in Miami. He won a couple of championships there, a couple of finals MVPs. It's going to be tricky to see if his number gets to the rafters.
Oh, I don't think it will. But don't feel bad for him. Outside of Quick Loans Arena, he'll have a statue that's like 4 stories high. It's high. It's going to be huge.
But just think about some of the all-time greats like a Wilt Chamberlain. He has his number retired by 3 separate teams. You can make that case for LeBron James that he deserves clearly to have his number retired by the Miami Heat, which won't happen, in my opinion, based on how their relationship ended.
Jalen.
What up, though?
We often celebrate the athleticism and the good-natured, kind heart of a gentleman by the name of DeMarcus Cousins of the Sacramento Kings. He also goes by the name of
Boogie!
When we last spoke about Boogie and his teammate Matt Barnes, they were sipping Hennessy in the locker room after their game was canceled, and they were putting it on Snapchat and Instagram for the world to see. It didn't seem to be the best judgment, and now there is a new incident. They're currently being sought after for questioning by the New York City police involving an incident at a nightclub. It's a he said, she said situation. One party says that Matt Barnes assaulted us and choked both males and females during the incident. The other party, Matt Barnes and Marcus Cousins, said that we were assaulted. We don't know what happened inside that nightclub, but we did see the video of the two of them outside the nightclub. Please describe that scene a little bit for us.
The video outside the nightclub depicts Boogie Cousins acknowledging that there was a physical altercation that took place, and he intervened once he realized that one of the assailants was choking Matt Barnes. So therefore, he wanted to get in and throw some blows in defense of his teammate. And I also saw him shaking his right hand as a right-handed player and shooter, which I talk about a lot on this program when people joke about hold me back in the NBA. That's a real thing because a craftsman should protect his tools. So hopefully, whatever happened throughout the altercation, it doesn't now affect one of his digits because he ended up punching somebody with his hand.
Now, like I said, I don't know what happened inside the nightclub, but I definitely saw the video from outside the nightclub. It looked like it was shot on a phone. Like, it didn't seem like it was shot on a professional camera. So it didn't seem like they were cognizant of the fact that they were being filmed, and they were sort of having that post-fight excited conversation. It sounded like, if you listen to DeMarcus Cousins, that Matt Barnes was being choked, and then, like as you said, DeMarcus Cousins intervened somewhat violently. It is remarkable that he has shown throughout the video, as you said, shaking his hand, moving his knuckles, looking at his hand, saying he thought that he lost his bracelet. It's one of those things that makes you wonder, will he or will they be disciplined from the team, from the league, by law enforcement? Like, what happens now in regards to this incident?
Well, at this point, the NYPD wants to clearly talk to Matt Barnes at minimum to get his take on what took place. It's always tricky when you're in a nightclub or establishment how the camera scenario works.
Yep.
Now, we can run the credits of multiple athletes that were out and about, not just at a club, but in particular in New York City, and how multiple incidents that have taken place that have made headlines for all of the wrong reasons. So we'll see if any of that footage comes out. But as it relates to the team discipline, yes, it will take place, especially on the heels of the Hennessy bottle in the locker room, which I acknowledge that some discipline internally, some evil emails got sent about that.
Yep.
And then you fast forwarded to this situation taking place after a loss. The crowd was getting under Matt Barnes' skin,
Yep.
which the league is going to take into account. He struggled that night. They were chanting Derek Fisher. For all of those that don't know, when Valentine's Day comes, make sure you find the time to spend with yours because Derek Fisher will. And Matt Barnes learned that the hard way, unfortunately, with his ex. And because of that, the crowd was getting on him that night. Not saying that carried over into the night, but as a player, trust me, when I shoot 1 for 11.
1 for 11?
I still feel it a few hours later. As a matter of fact, you feel it a couple of years later a lot of times when you're still playing. So you feel some type of way when you don't perform well at your job. So I do think based on the team getting more information, the league getting more knowledge, there will be discipline taken. But the one thing I take solace in, and I'm not proud to say this, I don't think this is cute, I don't think this is cool, I don't think any of that. But unfortunately, I've been on the wrong side of being at the club and incidents taking place. They didn't seem in danger after it was over. They weren't in a rush. They weren't worried about what was going to take place, if they were coming out after them, if there was going to be a continuation of what took place. So when I saw that scene, that made me think that it may not be as major as it could have been.
That's a good point. They did seem very much at ease, like not looking over their shoulders or down the street or sort of concerned, or, we got to get out of here, worried about the authorities coming. So we don't really know what happened in there. But there is a TMZ report, and this is just one thing I want to point out, and this is stuff they believe from Barnes' rep or lawyer, said that it all started when Barnes' butt bumped into a neighboring table. And let's just say that is exactly what happened. Everyone needs to relax. You're going to bump into people. Like, let's just just allow people to their space. And if someone steps on your foot in the club, don't just let them, keep it moving. No one's intentionally trying to bump into you. No one's trying to disrespect you. Sometimes people just need to relax a little bit and not let small little things like butt bumps escalate into lawsuits and police investigations. Now we have another type of bump. This one's called a kick. When we were last on this show, we were talking about why is Draymond Green still kicking people in reference to his heel to the face of James Harden in that epic Warriors-Rockets game. Now he kicked Marquise Chris in the hand again. And I asked for the second time in 2 days, why is Draymond Green still kicking people?
There's no expert analysis for this. There's no excuse for this. What's going to continue to happen is he's going to continue to get disciplined for this, to the point where they're going to hit his pockets, they're going to suspend him games, and then when it starts to cost your team, that's when the other 14 guys, that's when the coaching staff, that's when the organization truly starts to take it to the next level as they discipline the player. Because remember, in my opinion, if Draymond Green is playing in the finals last year, they win the championship. Now, they don't get Kevin Durant, but they have back-to-back championships. So I could do all of the technical reasons about being 6'7" and being off balance and going against bigger competition and falling on one leg or whatnot. But as Kiki Vandeweghe said, that's an unnatural basketball move. And I like the fact, because I've used this example as a player flailing his arms. I've talked about that multiple times. And he used the analogy of James Harden, which I agree with. Unfortunately for Draymond Green, a kick with your legs, which are clearly more powerful than your arms, and your shoes are involved, are going to be a lot more substantial, clearly, than the flailing of the arms. And he's going to get disciplined for it.
Now, I know you like this. He pretends that it's unrelated to the incident, but it's related. Over the weekend, he would just randomly just tweet out some photos that just happen to be of, I don't know, your favorite basketball team in the history of the sport, the Bad Boy Pistons. Translate for us. When he tweets a photo of the Bad Boy Pistons, what is he saying to the league and to the fans?
He's a throwback, and he's wishing that he was a part of the game when a hard foul was just the normalcy of going to the free throw line and making the free throws. It wasn't a big-time fine. It wasn't suspension. It wasn't a carryover effect. I remember watching Robert Parrish give a two-piece to Bill Laimbeer. It was just like, technical foul. I remember Kevin McHale clothesline and Kurt Rambis. It would just go to the line and make two free throws after the flagrant. So he's just acknowledging an era that he's from Michigan. He grew up watching and supporting, but clearly not participating in, because this era going to hit those pockets for that type of behavior.
And now, the Don't Get Fired topic of the day.
Don't get fired, Jalen. First, we have Steve Kerr come out, and he says, during my chronic back pain, I tried to smoke marijuana a couple times to see if it would relieve my pain. Didn't really work for me. And then we have Earl Watson, the Phoenix Suns coach, to say, hey, pump the brakes, Steve Kerr. Let's be careful with the rhetoric that we use around marijuana, as there are a lot of children listening. Both people making very measured, intelligent statements. Briefly, what do you think about the two in their back and forth in the public?
As you get older and you mature, you start to pay more attention to not only what's considered illegal versus illegal, but what can truly do the more damage and why one's allowed and the other isn't. And I've acknowledged that alcohol can be just as detrimental to your body, to your behavior, and to your decision making as marijuana. But that's legal. Why? Because our government is able to tax it and control it and put it in a position to where they can now govern how it's used and how much it costs. For marijuana, that has not taken place. Almost like the internet. Have you ever been somewhere and you're like, wait a minute, why is the internet free? Like, why is my cell phone not working? Like, I'm not in the forest. Like, why is my phone not working? Well, there's a business element that goes to that. You don't have your roaming. You don't have your cell phone coverage because there aren't towers in that area. Or you don't have cell phones, or you have to pay for internet because they want to continue to legislate it and it becomes free money. That's what I see with marijuana. And also, I'm still disappointed, and I'm going to continue to make this point. And for whatever it's worth, it just so happened to be the sports that are dominated by majority black players. In football and in basketball, they test and punish for marijuana. They don't in hockey, Major League Baseball, NASCAR, tennis, golf. Shall I continue?
They do, actually, Jalen.
When the last time you saw a player get punished for marijuana in one of those sports?
We'll discuss that in a couple months.
No, let's talk about it now. No, let's talk about it now.
Jalen Rose, I hate to be the one to break this news to you. The Michigan Wolverines will not be the college football national champions this year. They will not be playing in a playoff game. They're not even ranked number 5. Yeah. Like, they didn't even give y'all number 5. They didn't even give y'all number 5. Dropped you to number 6 after Penn State won the Big Ten title. But they didn't put Penn State at number 4 over Washington. They left Penn State at number 5. So now that we have Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Washington as the top 4 teams, do you think the committee got it right?
Hold on, let me do something for a minute. Let me follow the money. Let me follow
wait,
the
do you
money.
see it? You pick up a trail? You
Let
pick up
me
a money
follow the
trail?
money.
Follow the money,
Let me see. The team that didn't win the best conference in the country actually have the highest ranking out of that conference in the Ohio State Buckeyes at number 3?
Yes,
is that
100% correct. It's 100% correct,
okay.
Mr. Rose.
Okay, so I do think the committee, however, if they wanted to send a message in the future, what they really should have done is they never should have allowed Ohio State to go to number 2 while Michigan was number 3, except it was such a free opportunity for 2 teams that are colossal in collegiate football to have a mega game. Mm-hmm. And you knew whoever won that game would be in, but not win the Big Ten.
Can we still follow money, Jalen? Can we continue to follow money around for a second? Because I want to talk about the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is a big part of this equation. They're a big part of the college football playoff system. And do you know what they said last year? Oh, wait a second. Are you going to leave us out? Oh wait! We've got a champion. You know, we've got a one-loss champion here in Washington. You leave us out again, then when you have your little Thanksgiving business meetings, when you have your little everyone comes to a table, the Pac-12 is not going to be happy, and they contribute a lot of money. They're part of this big system, and you can't leave them on the outside looking in twice. Now, let's be honest. Let's be real. Any, even casual college football fan knows that there are at least 3 teams outside the top 4 that are a better football team than the Washington Huskies. I'm just going to say, Does anyone disagree with me? Does anyone if we were just going to pick just the absolute best 4 teams in college football, the teams that had the best chance at winning it all, I do not think that Washington would be in the top 4. However, given this system and given the different power plays that there are and following the money, I totally understand how we ended up with these 4. Do you disagree with that?
I agree with your sentiment. You're exactly right. And salute to the Penn State Nittany Lions. And this is one of the more frustrating things about sports. Just think about what happened to them. Yes, they lost to Pitt, who, by the way, beat Clemson, which is another subject for another day.
Yep.
let's just take things for its merit. What they showed me is that if you've lost 2 games, you're out of the top 4. Also, what they've showed me is winning your conference doesn't mean that you're in, even though it's one of the 5 majors.
Nope.
And so the message,
the best conference in college football.
The message they could have sent, and it could have happened weeks ago, and it could have clearly happened at the end, was we're going to put the Big Ten champion in the collegiate football playoff, not the best team. And especially when, let me see, did Penn State play Ohio State this year?
Yes, they did.
What happened? What was the result of that game?
Oh, Penn State beat Ohio State. But Penn State's not playing in the playoff. If you're a Nittany Lion fan, it's very easy to say, look, do you know how they decide who the better team is? They each line up against each other at opposite ends of the line of scrimmage, and they decide, they see to try to move the ball forward, the other team tries to stop them from doing that, and they score touchdowns, and they keep scoring. That's how they decide who the best team is, and we're a better team than Ohio State.
And again, I continue to acknowledge this. The Electoral College allows me to realize the president is not elected, they're selected. The same with the collegiate football playoff. If that was the case, the champion of the Big Ten would be in, except the Ohio State Buckeyes got selected. Therefore, with the eye test, we can say, oh, they're better. Even though they beat them, they're better.
Here's what the committee just did for me, David Jacoby, someone whose time is at a premium. Between my professional responsibilities, my family responsibilities at home, my time is at a premium. Do you know what the college football committee just did for me? They just gave me another 3 hours. I don't have to watch. I don't have to watch Washington, Alabama. I really don't, Jalen. I'm not going to watch that game. I will not be watching that game because I know Alabama is going to win. And you can record this down. You can tweet at me and tell me I'm wrong and all of that. But I'm not watching that game. It will not be entertaining. They will win by 20 points plus. To give them the points, whatever you have to do, because I will not be watching that game. However, I will watch Clemson, Ohio State.
How about we just call this entire Final Four the Alabama Invitational?
We could call it that for the next 4 years, probably. Let's be honest, let's be real. That's what this has been all year long, is who's going to get to play Alabama. And I think it's going to be Ohio State and Alabama, and I think that will be a game that I will definitely watch, as I do not know who is going to win.
Don't sleep on Deshaun Watson. He put up big numbers last year against them.
I'll sleep on him. Conor McGregor has so much to say. He's in the news so much lately, and I'm loving this one particular angle. A television program that is very important to me, Mr. Rose, not too important to you, because it takes place in the woods. Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones. It is a big part of my life. It's something that me and my wife talk about a lot. And there is now news that Conor McGregor could be a character in an upcoming episode of Game of Thrones. Will that get you to watch an episode?
No. Not going to be able to do it.
I'm not going to be able to do it.
What about Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather actually boxing? Would that get you to watch?
I would watch because I would love to see Floyd get a signature knockout. When you look back at Floyd's career, the one thing that people who question his greatness is that they haven't seen him truly have a rival because he dismantled them. But more importantly, as a fighter, you have signature knockouts that become YouTube clips and highlights and viral. He hasn't had many of those. If Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor get into a ring and they're boxing, he would get one against Conor. That wouldn't last long at all. I give him 5 rounds to handle that.
Well, here's what Conor McGregor has to say about that matchup. You'll never believe this, he disagrees with you. Quote, "What? I would not go in there just to show up. I'd go in there to knock him out, and that's it. He can be hit. He's been hit before. Age waits for no man."
I've seen this happen before in Rocky III with Hulk Hogan as his opponent. And only thing I know is he started to wrestle Rocky. That's the only thing. Here's what Conor McGregor going to do with all of y'all money, okay? Let me just tell y'all what's going to happen. Okay, pull the camera closer to me. Here's what's going to happen.
Okay, what's going to happen?
Conor McGregor would love to sign up to fight Floyd Mayweather. Once the ink dries, he's going to get into the ring. You know what he's going to do? He's going to break the rules and get disqualified. That's what he's going to do.
Interesting. I could definitely see that happening. Good for Conor McGregor. And Game of Thrones. Watch Game of Thrones. It's the best.
I'm not going to be able to do it.
Jalen Rose, a lot happened in the NFL this week. We're going to go through some news items very quickly. Are you ready for a quick hit round?
Let's get it.
Rashard Robinson was hit with a 15-yard penalty for making a snow angel. We've been critical of the NFL for being the no-fun league this year, but not only did he get hit with 15 for making a snow angel, they didn't even score, and he was celebrating, and the touchdown got called back.
And the unique thing about that is I just flipped the channel watching multiple games that day and saw someone else do the exact same celebration, and I don't think they got a 15-yard penalty for doing it.
They didn't, and the refs have explained this because he was already on the ground and it was not a coordinated celebration. They always have an explanation.
Exactly.
It's easy to come up with an explanation after the fact. It's like, oh, no, here's the difference between it. Tom Brady is now the NFL's all-time winningest quarterback. He has won more football games than anyone else in the history of the National Football League. What does that mean to you?
An amazing accomplishment of greatness, longevity, productivity, championship glory, because he also includes the playoff games that he's played in, but also great coaching and how they tailor their game plans. Oh, your front four is really going to rush? Or you're going to do a lot of blitzing? Guess what we're going to do? One step, boom, get the football out of his hands. They protected him and not allowed him to take a lot of big shots. And it says a lot for his perseverance. A guy that got drafted in the 6th round, though he married a supermodel that probably makes more money than he does, his fire still burns like he was an undrafted rookie. And so because of that, that level of greatness may not be accomplished again.
One thing I love about this news story is I believe in the Patriot ethos, and I believe in the way that they approach their job is that I don't think that Tom Brady makes too much of this. Like, I think he might have just, celebrated with some pistachio ice cream or whatever weird stuff that he eats, but I don't think this is a big deal to him. I think he's concerned about Gronkowski being out, and he's concerned about the Ravens coming to Foxborough on Monday Night Football. Colin Kaepernick was 1 for 5 for 4 yards and got benched. What do you think about the decline? We spoke about Kaepernick so much when he wasn't playing, and now that he's playing, just murmurs here and there. What do you think about the decline of his on-field performance?
It's never good when you only pass for 5 yards and you clearly going to rush for more yards than that in the same football game. He was benched, but then when you watch Blaine Gabbert trot into the game, you wonder, and there are rumors that Christian Ponder may be playing better than both of them in practice. So we may even get a chance to see him play at some point of this year. But the reality, what's going on in San Francisco, especially since they ran Jim Harbaugh off, has been a disaster. You remember those conversations about who was going to be better between Colin Kaepernick and Russell Wilson?
Yep.
Or who was going to own the division against the Seahawks and the 49ers? Only one man left and changed that dynamic. He's now in Ann Arbor, and he's leading that team to be one of the top football teams in the country.
He's leading that team to a bowl game, not a playoff game. Jeff Fisher signed a 2-year extension with the Los Angeles Rams. There were rumors that this deal was done much earlier in the season, but there was no right time to announce it. Was this the right time to announce it right before a Foxborough game against the Patriots?
Here's one of those professional power plays that represents one of those in your face, I'm going to do things my way type of announcements. Whether the deal got signed recently or whether it got signed months ago, they hear the rumors about maybe Jeff Fisher isn't the guy to continue to lead this team.
It's always 7-9.
He hasn't won playoff games.
Eric Dickerson doesn't like him.
Todd Gurley hasn't rushed for 100 yards, haven't continued to progress.
Jared Goff wasn't ready. How come he doesn't look good?
Eric Dickerson is not going to come to a game while he's still coaching. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to sign him then. You know what? We love you, ED. We're going to bring you in for a meeting and all, but he's going to be our coach.
He's going to be
and so what that means is they want to show the visual of him at the game before they fire their coach. That's the professional power play. For all of the people in the Los Angeles area, any Rams fans that think your voice is going to be heard to get Jeff Fisher fired, that was the organization's way of saying, not going to be able to do it. My team, my way.
We have an official punter of Jalen Jacoby. There's a gentleman in the league with the esteemed position of punting the football forward and stopping it before it gets to the end zone of the opposing team. That gentleman's name, Marquette King. He is our punter. Our man Marquette this week he induced a roughing the kicker flag. Not only did he induce the flag, he picked up the flag and then danced with the flag and was hit with a 15-yard penalty. Do you think he regrets dancing with the flag?
I do. It's one of those moments when you out and about, you had a couple of adult beverages.
No idea what you're talking
it's
about.
It's almost 2 o'clock.
Never happened.
The lights are on, the music stopped, and you go into the bar like, I can't get nothing else? And they like, no, we stopped serving. And then you get mad at the bartender for not serving you. Or you get mad at the bouncers for trying to kick you out. Hey, man, it's over. It's over, man. You got to get out of here. You got to get out of here. And so for him, he appreciated inducing the flag. So he felt like, feeling myself. And he just got caught up in the moment. But our favorite punter, luckily for him, it didn't cost him or his team because they went on and came back and had a big-time victory.
One thing I love about my man, the official punter of Jalen Jacoby, Marquette King, is he later tweeted a picture of one of the Bills players snitching on him and his dancing with the flag. You can see the Bills player pointing to him, and he tweeted with the words, "Now I know how I got caught." So you know what? He's like, look, if it wasn't for y'all snitches, I would have just had my nice little dance. We wouldn't have had to worry about this, and we would have had a 1st and 10 instead of 1st and 25.
Hit the brakes.
You're not riding with Marquette on this one?
This term, like hating, gets used incorrectly.
Snitch?
And I need to show my age here. Here's what snitching is. You and I set out to do something that's wrong. One of us gets caught and tells on the other.
Okay.
That's snitching. No other scenario constitutes snitching. If I'm walking down the street and I see a guy push over an old lady and take her purse, and I call 911, that's not snitching.
That's a fair point. That is not snitching. However, when someone's dancing with a penalty flag and you're going over to the referee and you're pointing, you're going, look at him, why don't you call a penalty on him? It's not snitching, but I can't support it. I can't support it. It's not snitching, but I don't support it. Snitching is the wrong word, but I do not support that behavior.
So let me see. When the last time you see a professional athlete argue at a referee or an official?
I've never seen that
every
before.
play.
I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before in my life.
That's the exact same thing. You're trying to lobby for a call. That's really what's taking place.
Okay, I understand lobbying for a call. You think you got fouled. You think you got hit in the head while you were shooting a jumper or whatever. That's fine. But if someone else is dancing, if you're pointing at someone else dancing, like I just fundamentally have a problem with someone looking at someone else celebrating, having a good time, be like, look at them, they're having a good time. Get them in trouble for that. That's different. Oh, that was pass interference.
You're not speaking like a true competitor. Because
I'm not a true competitor.
if I can point at that guy and all of a sudden they're going to throw a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct and it's a 15-yard penalty, I won.
Yep. Do you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like one of my kids in the back of the minivan blaming another kid for doing something. That's what it seems like to me. And I don't want to hear any of it. And I'm going to celebrate the official punter of Jalen Jacoby.
But I'm going to tell you something.
King. Salute to you, Marquette. Keep dancing, my friend, on and off the field.
Always believe the one that tells first.
I don't believe any of them. So, Jalen Rose. The game I anticipated the most on the Week 13 Sunday slate was the Panthers and the Seahawks. Two of the best teams in the NFC last year. Two of the most exciting quarterbacks that played the position. However, when the Panthers took the field, Derek Anderson was playing the position of quarterback for the Panthers.
What?
Explain to us why.
Well, it became a comedy of errors because it's a perfect example of when things are going bad, they can get worse. In particular, for a Panthers team that seemingly nothing went wrong last year other than losing in the Super Bowl. Derek Anderson threw an accurate pass to his fullback. It hit his hands. It bounced off his hands. It became an interception. Now that magnifies who threw the football. And it also magnifies if you know Cam is going to be out for the first series, why are you throwing the football? And so what happens in the team dynamic is these are the plays we're going to run. We were scheduled to run those plays. Derek Anderson's a veteran. Cam is out. We'll catch the team by surprise. We're going to get cute, that is. They're not going to think we're going to pass on first down without Cam. They're still going to wonder why he's not in the game. And lo and behold, their luck continues to get worse because it led to an interception, which led to a Seattle Seahawks field goal, and ultimately to an avalanche of a beatdown that the Carolina Panthers took that gets overshadowed by us discussing Cam's wardrobe scenario that took place with head coach Ron Rivera.
So let's talk about the wardrobe scenario. There's a video on TMZ of Ron Rivera going up to Cam, who seems a little upset. It's a very short conversation, and it seems to be reported as the moment when Ron Rivera tells Cam, you are being disciplined because you are not wearing a necktie as we travel with the team. As someone who has played on a professional sports team, what sort of wardrobe rules are there and how strictly are they disciplined?
We've acknowledged on this show that usually what Cam Newton wears on the bus, then on the plane, he'll remix it and wear it to the game. So much so that he probably only changes his underwear, and we don't see no other changes.
Socks and underwear, that's it.
Okay. So what I gather from what took place is it wasn't about the uniform violation. It wasn't about the tie. Media members, fans, calm down, relax. It wasn't about a dress code violation. It was about when a team is struggling and you're in a position of leadership, you have to find a way to not only coach your best player and keep him disciplined, because if you don't, now the inmates start to run the asylum. Now, how many teams have we said, oh, that coach has lost control of those guys? Well, Ron Rivera, a former player, is like, wait a minute. I see these guys probably showing up for meetings late, barking back at the coaches, getting penalties that they shouldn't get, just not performing the way we performed last year. And if I need to set an example, what better example to set it with than the franchise player that won MVP last year? So what happens in a professional team dynamic is, yes, the dress code clearly probably was players need to wear a tie on the plane.
Sure.
So Cameron Newton says, you know what, man, I'm tired of this season, man. You know, we ain't winning. I ain't dabbing during the games. I ain't taking pictures late.
No one's even talking about my stupid outfits.
Now instead of us talking about his MVP play last year, then his theatrics and looks. Remember, he was the guy that said, if you want to stop me from dancing and shining, you got to stop me.
They've stopped.
Well, you know what players started to do this year? They started to lay the wood. And he missed games during the concussion protocol. He even had all of us saying, man, he don't get any late hits. Man, he not even getting any calls by the refs. So now what ends up happening is you build a frustration eternally. And what this situation highlights for me is this ain't about the dress code. I think that something happened behind closed doors that the coaching staff used as, first off, Cam acknowledged this is not the first time
this
that this took place.
This is not a first offense punishment. This is not a first offense punishment. It's not just, oh, Cam didn't wear a necktie so he can't play. That's just not how this works. This is what I think happened. I have a few theories about this. I think this is what happened is he didn't wear a necktie earlier in the season. We have pictures of him in preseason games traveling without a necktie. And they said, Cam, you got to wear a necktie, right? And then he did it again. And they said, Cam, we told you last time about the necktie. We're going to let you slide again. It's okay. And then the third time, they took it as, now he's just disrespecting me. It's kind of like me with my kids. Like, I tell him not to do something, and he does it again. I'm like, whatever. But it's like when he knows not to do it, when they've told Cam repeatedly that he has to wear a necktie and he continues not to, they take it as personal disrespect and not respect for their authority, and they feel like, all right, now he's forcing our hand to see what we'll do. He wants to see if we will actually hit the team where the team hurts because he didn't wear a necktie. And he's thinking they won't do that. They'll never tell the press that they didn't play me because I didn't wear a necktie. They would never do that. And they know that. And he forced their hand. And they said, all right, in with Derek Anderson. And
for the Cam apologists, here's some unbiased commentary. It has zero to do with a dress code because he was clearly dressed nice.
Sure.
It has zero to do with the tie. It's an insubordination that happens internally multiple times on other levels. You know the term habitual line stepper? It's almost like when the meeting starts at 4, you show up at 4:01. or when the coach is showing you something you should have did before, after saying, you know what, my bad, I need to get better, you're barking back. Well, what about the play call?
Yep.
Or what about what he should have done? So I always talk about players and teams being more willing to sacrifice when things are going well. Well, that's when your character is tested when you're struggling. And so for all of the apologists, I want to tell you a couple of things that Cam said, not that I said, about the situation. He said that he should have cleared it. There's no arguing with that.
My bad.
He said that he got caught off guard. Where's LL? You can't say you should have cleared it and you got caught off guard when I punished you.
I like what you did there, Mr. Rose. Good point.
Right? How about that? And then he said he found out minutes before the bus. Where's LL? You didn't find out the dress code minutes before the bus, Cam.
Preseason.
You found out in the preseason manual, Cameron. This is not your first year with the team. This is not your first year under Coach Rivera. You know the rule. And here's another thing. He talked about the team being in Cali all week. So let me get this right. A multimillionaire with a stylist. Now, anybody that sees this guy dressed clearly knows that somebody's picking out his clothes, buying his clothes. You don't think in a week he could have had somebody FedEx him or overnight him or same day air him a collared shirt or a tie?
They don't stay at Comfort Inns. You know what I mean? They stay at fine hotels where you can just look at anybody and say, may I have a necktie in 30 seconds? I'll pay you for it. And it's there in 25.
How about the funniest thing was like, oh, he's a big guy. He can't go buy one at the store. Yes, you can. They call big and tall stores.
Oh, come on.
How about that? And here's the other thing that's hilarious. He said, I know that it was a big no-no. Okay, if it was a big no-no, then why did you do it? You wanted to test me. You wanted to see if I was going to punish you. You wanted to see if I was going to do something about it. But guess what? I did. And lastly, he tried to make it like it was petty. He tried to slide that in there like, oh, it was just because of a tie, like AI's practice reference. It ain't about the tie.
Not about that.
It ain't about the dress code. It's about the insubordination. You're the leader of the team. You hear Coach Pop say this about Tim Duncan all of the time. We're 5-time champions because he allows me to coach him. So this is going to be a lesson learned. And here's another thing I have to point out is really important as a former player. I appreciate all of the teammates and all of the coaches that put me in a position to be successful. What gets so very lost is, how many MVPs did Cam win before Ron Rivera was his coach?
0.
Okay, so there's something to be said for a coach putting you in a position to be successful. So you owe him also a level of honor, a level of respect, because he helped take your game and your team to another level. But I say all that to say this. This becomes a smokescreen for a season, a team that's had a Super Bowl hangover. We can talk about all of the reasons why they're struggling. This just is another thing that's going to go down as a footnote to a bad season for the Carolina Panthers.
The most shocking thing about this, the thing I have not seen from Cam before, the thing that surprised me the most about this, the thing that I looked at the screen and said, whoa, I cannot believe my eyes, is Cam looks pretty good. Like, he wasn't wearing a crazy hat. Like, he was wearing a very sensible outfit. This is probably the one time I looked at what he was wearing. I was like, oh, yeah, I could do that. That's not so bad.
But
and then he gets in trouble.
But see, that's the point. When you try to belittle something you did, and when you share the story with somebody else like it was petty, like the other person is tripping on you. So Cam on purpose was like, I'm going to be clean, I'm going to be normal, but I ain't going to wear a tie.
He's Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio, and we have a very simple motto. Part of giving the people what they want is knowing what the people want. We reach out to our listeners, you. We want you to communicate with us. You can hit us up on our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed. That is at Jalen and Jacoby. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 985-80-JALEN. You can leave us questions, opinions, comments, feedback, anything. First question is from Jason Pender. Jason Pender wants to know, what's your favorite Christmas movie? I've never seen Miracle on 34th Street. I just want to say that into a microphone. Never seen it. Tried. Didn't work. My favorite Christmas movie has to be Charlie Brown Christmas.
Wow, that's a terrific question. I don't have an answer.
Are you familiar with Christmas films?
Well, it gets tricky because, for example, I was going to say Trading Places, But in theory, while it was a staged movie around Christmas and it was released during Christmas, it in theory is not a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I don't think that qualifies, Mr. Rose. I don't think that qualifies. Next question I think you could have an answer for. Mr. Perfect wants to know all-time favorite Detroit Lion.
Barry Sanders.
Yeah, I figured that would come up. Can I get a top three? Because we know who number one and number two are.
Barry Sanders, Megatron, and Billy Sims.
Oh, okay, good. Shout out to Billy Sims. The Chosen One sends us questions all the time. Every day he sends us like 4 questions. Big shout to this male or female. Some tells me it says Lewis, so it's a male. Jalen, I lost my state game Friday. How did you handle after losing a title game? Anything I can learn?
Work harder, be more disciplined, more diligent. Use that as fuel to your fire. One of the tough life lessons that people eventually have to realize is that there are people walking this earth that don't like you, that aren't rooting for you, that don't hope for your well-being, that are not rooting for your best interest. And it should allow you to appreciate the family and the friends and the coaches and the support and the teammates that do. But hopefully it gives you the discipline to ignore those who aren't rooting for you. And usually your character is shown when you fail, because when you win, guess what happens? Everybody's celebrating you. Hey, great game, great season, great job. Because now everybody wants to hang around and be with the winner. So how do you deal with the adversity of failure? That deems your true character. So allow this to make you work harder. Go into the gym, get into your drills, your combination dribbles. Shoot more shots, create a plan so that now you can come out on top when that situation arises again.
Here's one thing I have to say to Lewis. Sometimes you have to find solace and comfort in the success that is second place. I think people look at second place as the first loser, when really second place is one of the best. You know what I mean? Like, I've been in second place in tons of rec leagues and tons of intramural and all that, but I know you've been there too, Jim. Sometimes you have to say, you know what? There's 40 teams in this league, and we're number 2. Like, that's better than 38 other teams. It's so easy to focus on how close you were to first place, but sometimes you have to celebrate second place, and I love to celebrate, Jalen. So I'll find any excuse to celebrate. So, the Chosen One, celebrate your second place. You were the second in the state. Good for you.
Congratulations.
Ruperto wants to know, what is your ritual before watching your favorite football team?
So it's varied as I've gotten older.
I can imagine.
I've had my tailgating years, whether it's at the arena or stadium. I've also had it wherever I was watching the game, whether I was hosting or going to a party. Mm-hmm. I've had to meet the homies at the restaurant and watch the team play.
Yep.
It's a Lions bar. It's a Wolverines bar.
Yep.
Still like those, by the way. But the normal ritual is I like to be on the grill. I like to cook.
I like to cook too, because it always keeps you busy. You know what I mean? I like when people come to my house, I always like to be on the grill and cook because I can get out of conversations quick. I'm always taking care of people. You know what I mean? You never get stuck in one place or one thing too long. You're helping people out, and people are always impressed when you remember the specifics of their order, which is something I can do for some reason. I always like to be on the grill.
I got an interesting game in my household coming up soon.
Oh, I know you do. Lions, Giants.
That's going to be an interesting day in the neighborhood.
Some tells me you might be on the grill during that one too, but like actually getting grilled. That might happen. One thing I want to say about tailgates, you ready for an unpopular Jacoby opinion? I have a lot of these. You ready, Jalen? I don't want to start partying like 4 hours before the game. You know what I mean? I'm old. I'm almost 40. I've got like a 4-hour window of fun. I'll get there 45 minutes before the game starts, but like I don't want to hang out in the parking lot for 3 hours, get into the stadium while they're still warming up on the field and watch a bunch of dudes stretch to hip-hop music with headphones on. Like, that's not fun for me. Like, I would rather just be at the house, get to the game maybe a half an hour early, chop it up and have a couple beers with my friends in the parking lot, and then go inside for kickoff. I don't know about this arriving at the thing 8 hours early thing. That just never part of my sports experience. It just never was.
You're doing the exact same thing. It's just you're not in the parking lot of the arena.
I know. I'm warm. I can use the bathroom. There's beers in the fridge.
You're still doing the same thing, though. So don't say you don't like to do it. You're doing it.
I can put my sweatpants on. No, I don't like to tailgate. I'm telling you right now, tailgating's overrated. If you're over 25, tailgating's overrated. I'm just going to say it. That's how I feel. I'm not saying it's a fact. That's how I feel. You can't tell me I'm wrong about how I feel. Kenny Two Shoes has a question, Jalen. It's simple. Are the Clippers for real?
Are the Clippers for real?
I anticipate that they'll be in the Western Conference Finals versus the Golden State Warriors, something that their franchise has not done in its history. That constitutes a yes.
Are the Clippers for real?
Ted Will has a question. You get one pick. Who's the best defensive player in the NFL?
Khalil Mack or Von Miller come to mind.
Yep.
Those are the two answers, no doubt.
I would say the most impactful defensive players that change games.
I'll give Von Miller the edge right now because he's been more consistent all year. But here comes Khalil Mack.
Can we
Return of the Mack?
Next question is from John Dre 3000. John wants to know, can we mention how amazing hockey is as a sport for 45 seconds and then go back to ignoring it? Now, I understand this. You know what I mean? I get this sentiment. I love hockey. I love going to hockey games. I like baseball. I love Olympic sports. I follow big tennis matches. We don't cover every single sport, but that doesn't mean that we don't have respect for sports like hockey. Is that how you feel, Jalen?
The ultimate compliment I can pay to hockey is that you have the ability to navigate on skates while functioning with a stick and controlling a puck. Like, I can't imagine being able to do all three of those things at the same time.
I love the experience of going to an NHL game. It is, I would say, it was probably the best live sporting event to go to. Just any old regular season game. An NHL game is more fun than an NBA game or an NFL game. However, when I'm on my couch and when I've got the remote in my hand, you know I'm watching NBA games.
The best single event is not the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl. It's an ultimate prize fight. No question about it.
Ooh, I like what you did there. We'll be off tomorrow.
Tyson
Jalen Jacoby.
Holyfield.
We'll be back on Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening on ESPN Radio, for watching on ESPN2 and ESPN News, and subscribing to the Jalen and Jacoby podcast.
You're far too kind.
I'm Eric Carabell. On the latest fantasy-focused baseball podcast in December, Tristan Cockcroft and I discuss the new CBA affecting fantasy, Cespedes and Conforto, Segura and Haniger, and lots of other moves, plus hash browns.
Number 1 Alabama faces 4th-ranked Washington, followed by number 2 Clemson versus 3rd-ranked Ohio State. The College Football Playoff, New Year's Eve at 2 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio.